He stars had always called to humanity. When they finally answered, it was with promises of utopia. The Galactic Concord, an ancient alliance of 7 elder species, arrived in our skies with gifts. They gave us cures for our diseases. They gave us clean, limitless energy. They gave us food to feed our starving worlds. For one golden year, we believed we had found our place in a peaceful galaxy. We believed we had found friends. We were wrong. What dark secret lies behind the Concord's generosity? A secret 50 years in the making. When a lone ambassador is summoned to receive his people's sentence, what impossible escape will he make from the heart of an empire? And what happens when the most powerful fleet in the galaxy arrives at Earth to enforce a brutal verdict and discovers they have walked into a trap laid by the very species they so fatally underestimated? The Galactic Council betrayed humanity, their biggest mistake. Before the story begins, know that your subscription is the power that drives our signal. Support our journey by subscribing and liking this video. Every interaction helps us chart the vast, unknown expanse. Alright, let's begin the story. Then, Admiral Eris Thorne remembered that first day perfectly. She was a young commander then, standing on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Horizon as the signal came through. It wasn't random noise. It was a message, clear and deliberate, written in the universal language of mathematics. Humanity was not alone. Within hours, the first alien ships arrived in Earth orbit. The vessels were massive, elegant, creations of flowing metal and soft, internal light, far beyond anything humans had ever built. When the aliens transported down to the United Nations building, the whole world watched. Their leader, High Mediator Forlag of the Xylosian Combine, looked like a giant, intelligent insect, standing over 8 feet tall with compound eyes that seemed to see everything at once. He spoke through a translation device that floated in the air before him, his voice smooth and welcoming. He told humanity they had been watched for some time. Now that we had developed basic space travel, we qualified for membership in the Galactic Concord. He promised technology that would cure all diseases. He offered energy sources that would end pollution forever. He spoke of peace and cooperation among the stars. Ambassador Kalen Vance, a career diplomat who had dedicated his life to forging peace on Earth, shook the High Mediator's primary appendage. The symbolism was clear. Humanity was joining something greater than itself. The year that followed seemed like a dream. The aliens were true to their word. They shared medical technology that eliminated cancer, heart disease, and a dozen other killers. Dr. Kenji Tanaka worked directly with alien scientists, learning things human medicine had not even imagined. Lives were saved by the millions. The energy technology was just as revolutionary. Dr. Samira Khan led the team that studied the Concorde power generators. They were clean, efficient, and produced more energy than all of Earth's old power plants combined. The pollution that had choked our cities for generations began to clear. The climate crisis began to reverse. They showed our farmers how to grow crops that needed less water, less space, and produced 3 times the yield. Famine, a scourge that had plagued humanity since its dawn, started to disappear. It seemed too good to be true. Director Anya Sharma, head of the newly formed Terran Intelligence Directorate, thought so from the very beginning. Her job was to be suspicious, to see the patterns others missed. She sat in her secure, underground office, staring at a holographic display that mapped every piece of technology the Concorde had shared. "They are generous with some things," she said to the empty room, but completely silent on others. When human scientists asked about faster-than-light travel, the aliens politely explained that humanity was not yet ready for such complex physics. When our engineers wanted to study alien weapons, they were told such knowledge was restricted to full, tenured Concorde members only, a status that could take centuries to achieve. Sharma dug deeper. She studied every piece of data. She noticed the patterns in their restrictions. Every technology they shared made life better on Earth, but did nothing to make humanity stronger in space. The medical tech saved lives, but could not be used for military bioenhancements. The energy generators were powerful, but were hard-coded to prevent them from being adapted for weapons or advanced shields. The agricultural methods fed billions, but required alien-patented seeds that had to be purchased on credit from Concorde worlds. Slowly, with a cold dread settling in her gut, Sharma realized the truth. These were not gifts. They were leashes. Every piece of technology came with strings attached. Every advancement bound Earth more tightly to the Concorde systems, making humanity more and more dependent. She brought her concerns to Admiral Eris Thorne. The Admiral listened carefully, her face a grim mask. She assigned her best officer, Commander Eva Rostova, to investigate quietly. Rostova began asking questions. She spent months on Concorde stations throughout the solar system, making friends, gathering whispers. Most aliens were tight-lipped, loyal to the Concorde's official narrative. But one, a low-level reptilian Gorn technician named Sketh, finally spoke. He was old, tired of the Concorde's hypocrisy, and had taken a liking to the direct, honest humans. They met in a dark maintenance corridor on a station orbiting Jupiter. "They are afraid of you," Sketh hissed, his voice a dry whisper. "Afraid?" Rostova asked. "Why?" "We're no threat to them. You learn too fast," Sketh explained. "You adapt too quickly. You take their technology and you improve it in ways they never imagined. Every Concorde species took centuries to develop space travel. You did it in decades. Every other species had to be shown, step by step, how to use Concorde technology. You humans, you figure it out on your own. And then you make it better. The Concorde had a history," Sketh explained. "A dark secret. Every few thousand years, a new species would emerge. Too aggressive, too innovative, too dangerous to the established order. The Concorde would invite them to join, give them limited, safe technology to keep them happy, and then slowly, carefully, restrict their growth. If a species became too strong or too independent, the Concorde would act. They would quarantine them on their homeworld, or move them to a preservation planet, where they could be controlled forever." While Rostova was learning the political truth, other teams were uncovering the technical reality. Lieutenant Commander Kevin Wright, stationed on a Concorde communications outpost, began intercepting encrypted diplomatic transmissions. What he found confirmed their worst fears. The aliens were not debating whether to restrict humanity. They were debating when and how. Some hardliners wanted to act immediately. Others argued for waiting until Earth was more deeply entangled in the web of dependency. But they all agreed. Humanity could not be allowed to become a true, independent spacefaring civilization. Then came the final, damning discovery. Dr. Khan, while reverse engineering a Concorde power generator, found something hidden deep in its core programming. A kill switch. A remotely activated subroutine that could shut down the device instantly. She and her team worked around the clock for a month. They found similar switches in everything. The medical equipment, the agricultural systems, the water purifiers. Every piece of alien technology on Earth could be turned off with a single, system-wide command from the Concorde. When Director Sharma presented all the evidence to President Margaret Collins, the leader of Earth's unified government went pale. Everything they had celebrated for the past year was a trap. The cures, the clean energy, the abundant food, all of it could be taken away in an instant. The dream of a peaceful galactic future was a lie, a carefully constructed cage. Admiral Thorne called a secret meeting of Earth's top military leaders in the Cheyenne Mountain bunker. Commander Rostova presented the tactical situation. "Earth has 47 ships capable of leaving the solar system," she stated, her voice flat. "The Concorde has thousands. Our weapons are designed to fight other humans. Theirs are designed to destroy planets. In a direct, conventional fight, humanity would cease to exist in a matter of minutes." But Director Sharma had a different perspective. "The Concorde has been at peace for centuries," she countered. "They have never fought a real, peer-level war. Their ships are designed for intimidation, not sustained combat. Their weapons are powerful, but slow to fire. Their tactics are rigid and predictable because they have never faced an enemy that truly fights back." She looked around at the grim faces of the generals and admirals. Humanity, on the other hand, has been fighting wars for its entire, brutal existence. We know how to be cunning. We know how to be ruthless. We know how to win against superior odds. The Concorde has technology, but we have something far more valuable. She paused. "We have the will to survive, no matter the cost." Dr. Khan then revealed that she had not just been studying Concorde technology. She had been building our own. In secret, deep in hidden facilities on Earth, Mars, and the Moon, humanity had been preparing railguns that could fire projectiles at a fraction of light speed. Missiles with quantum-entangled guidance systems that could track targets through hyperspace. Electronic warfare suites that could blind Concorde sensors and hijack their own networks. And Dr. Tanaka, the medical genius, had his own contribution. While studying alien biology, he had identified the weaknesses of every Concorde species. What atmospheres they needed, what temperatures they preferred, what specific chemical compounds were fatally toxic to them. If necessary, humanity could design weapons tailored to kill each alien type. The picture became clear. Humanity had one overwhelming advantage. Surprise. The Concorde believed humans were dependent, grateful, and weak. They had no idea that Earth had been preparing for betrayal since the very first day the aliens arrived. Admiral Thorne made the decision. We prepare for war. Total, absolute war. But we wait. We let them make the first move. We let them spring their own trap. The summons came exactly 1 year after first contact. Ambassador Vance received a formal message from the Galactic Concorde, requesting his immediate presence at their central chambers. The tone was different. Cold. Official. Final. He knew what it meant. Before departing, he met with Admiral Thorne and Director Sharma. Sharma fitted him with a small device disguised as a diplomatic badge. It's an EMP, she explained. Powerful enough to disable everything electronic in the chamber for about 30 seconds. It also has a quantum beacon. We'll be able to track your location, and it will send a single, pre-coded message the moment you activate it. The message was simple: judgment. The Concorde chambers were designed to intimidate. A vast space, high ceilings, with the 7 senior council species sitting on elevated platforms, looking down at the space where Vance stood. Alone. High Mediator Forlag began, his voice echoing through the chamber. He praised humanity's cooperation. Then his tone changed. He said the Concorde had completed its evaluation of the human species. The results, he claimed, were troubling. Vance listened calmly as Forlag listed their crimes. Humans were too aggressive. Our history was filled with war. Humans adapted to new technology too quickly. What took other species centuries, we mastered in months. This, Forlag explained, was the behavior of a dangerous, destabilizing species. Finally, Forlag delivered the Concorde's decision. Humanity would be relocated to a preservation world, a planet in a distant part of the galaxy where our technology would be restricted to pre-industrial levels. All spacefaring capabilities would be removed. Earth itself would be quarantined. Any humans who refused would be forcibly removed. The sentence was delivered as if it were a kindness, a way to protect humanity from itself. How long has the Concorde been planning this? Vance asked, his voice steady. Forlag, drowning in his own arrogance, did not see the trap. He answered honestly. The decision was made before our ships ever reached your world. The entire year of cooperation has been a preparation for this. He admitted everything. The tracking systems in the technology, the dependency on their medical supplies, the remote kill switches in the power generators. Everything was designed to make resistance impossible. Back on Earth, the conversation was being broadcast in real time to the war room. The moment Forlag confessed, President Collins gave the order. Execute. Across the Sol system, humanity's war machine came to life. In the chamber, Vance looked up at Forlag. Did you really think we would accept this? That we would surrender our freedom and walk meekly into a cage? Forlag responded that humanity had no choice. The Concorde fleet was already moving toward Earth. Over 300 warships. When your people see our fleet, he said with finality, they will understand that resistance is futile. Vance smiled then. A cold, hard smile. You made several mistakes in your assessment of humanity, High Mediator. You assumed that rationality meant submission. You assumed technology alone determined strength. And you believed we would ever value peace over freedom. Forlag began to respond, but Vance was no longer listening. He pressed his thumb against the diplomatic badge. Judgment. An invisible electromagnetic pulse exploded outward. Every light in the chamber died. Every screen went dark. Every alien weapon, every containment field, every translation device stopped functioning. In the sudden, absolute darkness, Vance heard alien voices raised in confusion and alarm. The human strike team had been waiting for this exact moment. They materialized in the chamber, transported directly from 3 cloaked ships orbiting the station. They wore night vision equipment and moved with silent, practiced efficiency. Within seconds, they had reached Vance. Within a minute, they were gone, transported back to their ship with the ambassador. Lieutenant Commander Kevin Wright commanded the rescue mission. "Jump," he ordered the moment Vance was aboard. But before leaving, they delivered a message. It was a pre-recorded speech from Admiral Thorne, broadcast on every Concord communication network. Her message was simple. The Concord had betrayed humanity. They had pretended friendship while planning enslavement. They had declared war. The Concord fleet heading toward Earth would find not victims, but soldiers. Humanity would not submit. Humanity would fight. Any Concord ship that entered the Sol system would be destroyed. Any Concord world that supported the invasion would be considered enemy territory. This was not a negotiation. This was a promise. The Concord fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system in perfect, arrogant formation. 320 warships. The combined might of 7 alien civilizations. Admiral Zexter, a massive Gorn warrior with scales like polished obsidian, commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Inevitable. He had led compliance operations before. This would be no different. The primitives would see his fleet and surrender. He opened communications to Earth, broadcasting his ultimatum on every frequency. You have 12 standard hours to power down all military systems and prepare for relocation. Resistance will result in the destruction of your cities. He made it sound inevitable. On Earth, President Collins listened to the ultimatum. She looked at Admiral Thorne, at Commander Rostova, at Director Sharma. Then she gave a simple order. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity. Admiral Thorne activated the fleet-wide network. Execute the plan. Then he nodded to Rostova. She was in command of the battle group hidden behind Jupiter's largest moon, Ganymede. It was time to spring the trap. The Concord fleet moved deeper into the solar system. Their sensors showed nothing. No military activity. No ships rising to meet them. Zexter allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The paralysis of fear. Behind Ganymede, 47 human warships waited in complete silence. Cold. Dark. Invisible. Commander Rostova watched the tactical display as the enemy fleet moved into the perfect position. She waited. And waited. Then she gave the order that would change galactic history. Fire. Everything. The asteroid belt erupted with violence. Hidden among the rocks were hundreds of weapon platforms that Dr. Khan had spent months building in secret. Railguns. Designed to accelerate tungsten slugs to a fraction of the speed of light. They fired in a perfectly synchronized sequence, a continuous stream of projectiles that crossed the solar system in minutes. The Concord fleet detected the incoming fire far too late. Their shields were designed for energy weapons. These were not energy weapons. The tungsten slugs hit at nearly the speed of light, carrying the kinetic energy of tactical nuclear weapons. The first ship to be hit was Zexter's flagship, the Inevitable. The projectile punched through the forward shields as if they were paper, tore through 50 decks of the ship, and exited out the rear in a spray of molten metal and frozen atmosphere. Zexter barely had time to realize what was happening before a second slug hit his ship's reactor core. The flagship broke in two, both halves tumbling through space as the Admiral died, still trying to understand how primitives had weapons that could do this. All around the flagship, other Concord ships were being destroyed. Within the first 5 minutes, 60 of them had been destroyed or crippled. Then the human fleet attacked. Rostova led the charge from behind Ganymede, 47 ships accelerating to attack speed, their weapons already firing. They weren't using primitive missiles. They were using fast-burn rockets with human-designed AI targeting systems that could track multiple targets and adjust their flight paths in milliseconds. Human fighter wings, led by Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, swarmed the Concord fleet. The Concord's point defense systems, designed for slow-moving torpedoes, couldn't handle dozens of small, fast ships flown by pilots who thought in 3 dimensions. On Mars, massive coil guns, disguised as mining equipment, revealed their true purpose, firing projectiles the size of small buildings at the struggling Concord ships. The Concord fleet fell apart. Some captains tried to retreat, to jump to FTL and escape. That was when they discovered the next part of the trap. Jump inhibitor satellites, hidden throughout the solar system, activated simultaneously. It was old Concord technology, ironically, captured and improved by humanity. The Concord fleet was trapped. Then came the electronic warfare. Lieutenant Commander Wright, from a command ship near Earth, unleashed viruses and hacking programs into the Concorde network. Ships lost contact. Targeting systems showed ghosts. Weapon systems were disabled remotely. After 60 minutes of brutal, one-sided combat, the battle was over. The mighty Concorde fleet had lost over 200 ships. 53 had surrendered. Only 20 vessels managed to escape, carrying news of the impossible disaster back to Concorde space. Admiral Thorne broadcast a message to the surrendered ships. Their crews would be treated humanely, but their ships now belonged to humanity. He also delivered a message for the Concorde. This was just the beginning. If the Concorde wanted to continue the war, humanity would bring the fight to their worlds. There would be no mercy, no negotiation, only total victory or total destruction. News of the disaster at Earth spread through Concorde space like a shockwave. The 7 species gathered in emergency session. For the first time in memory, they felt genuine fear. High Mediator Forlag tried to rally them. He called for the mobilization of every military force. He demanded the humans be crushed. His rhetoric was powerful, but it was driven by fear. And fear, as the Concorde was about to learn, made for poor strategy. Admiral Thorne knew they could not win a long, defensive war. The Concorde had too many resources, too many worlds. So humanity did not defend. Humanity attacked, not to conquer, but to destroy the Concorde's ability to make war. Commander Rostova was given command of the First Strike Force. 160 ships. Her mission, strike at the Vin home system. The Vin had provided the largest contingent to the invasion fleet. Now, they would pay. The human fleet jumped into Vin space without warning. Rostova's tactics were brutal and efficient. She ignored the military stations. She targeted the orbital shipyards, the supply depots, the fuel refineries. Within hours, the Vin's ability to build new ships to supply their fleets was gone. Before the human fleet departed, Rostova broadcast a message. She told the Vin people that humanity bore them no hatred, but their government had chosen to attack Earth. There were consequences for that choice. Similar operations unfolded across Concorde space. Human fleets struck suddenly at key military and industrial targets. They destroyed or disabled them. They broadcast terms for peace. Then they left before reinforcements could arrive. The Concorde tried to respond, but their fleets were always one step behind. Director Sharma coordinated intelligence operations that sowed discord. She released classified documents proving the Concorde was not a true alliance, but a protection racket controlled by the 3 strongest species. Resistance movements, secretly aided by human agents, sprang up on dozens of worlds. The careful order the Concorde had maintained for millennia dissolved into chaos. After 3 months of this relentless, asymmetric warfare, the Concorde's power was broken. Their fortress station, the heart of their empire, was the last target. When the human fleet arrived, its defenses were already down, its crew having mutinied. Admiral Thorne entered the Great Chamber without ceremony. He did not need weapons. The council leaders looked defeated, broken. How? Forlag asked, his voice a whisper. Thorne answered honestly. The Concorde had made assumptions. They assumed technology and numbers guaranteed victory. They assumed all species would behave rationally. But humanity was different. We had spent our entire history fighting against impossible odds and finding ways to win. The Concorde leaders were arrested. They would face a fair trial for their crimes. Humanity would not become killers in the name of justice. President Collins addressed the fractured galaxy. She announced that Earth was convening a conference. Every species, large or small, would be invited to create a new system of galactic governance. One based on cooperation, not coercion. The Galactic Assembly was formed. There were no permanent seats, no veto powers. Every species had one vote. Humanity had been betrayed, threatened with extinction, and had responded by tearing down an empire and building a better galaxy from its ashes.